Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Do you like names? I love names, especially in card games, since they make it easy to let your opponent know what card exactly you're placing on the field without having to resort to bizarre descriptions like, I summoned this blue eyes white clusterfuck dragon. However, America sometimes likes to complicate things by doing their absolute best to fuck up the original sensible Japanese name of a card as hard as possible just because they can. And that's precisely what we're talking about today. Completely idiotic card renamings done by America in the TCG. Whether it be odd word choices, stale memes or redundant details, any card which goes so far against sane naming conventions has a chance to be on the list. So let's kick it off with number 10, the Monarchs Stormfort. While not exactly indiscernible or meaningless or even an inaccurate translation, the grammar on this one is a bit baffling. You have a plural noun followed by a non-existent word that's supposed to be some kind of an unholy amalgamation of a verb and a locational adjective. If those two were separated, it would make a lot more sense. It would imply that, the monarchs are storming fort. Or maybe if you made monarchs a possessive noun by adding an apostrophe before the S, it would still be a bit of an awkward name, but it would be a lot more reasonable than this. But hey, I still like to call it by its most appropriate name, the Monarchs Salt Fort, cause ain't no thing like tributing a Dark Destroyer for a shape snatch. Anyway, moving on to number 9, giving most of us some very unfortunate mid-2000s internet flashbacks, you know the ones. Epic, random, roxers, boxers, mind hexers. Yeah, someone at Konami of America HQ apparently thought it was a good idea to use a wacky lead speak name in a card with otherwise really cool and serious artwork. Because get it, lead hexers totally say this, we're like the cool kids audience, we're lead too. Hell, why not go ahead and make more of these? Why not have Apocalypse Tower Zors, or add XD to each instance of the word random in a card effect? However, considering this card came out in 2006, when this was considered the new hip cool thing to do, I'm willing to let them slide. What I am not willing to accept after 2011 is naming a card Dr. fucking Frankenderp, which is our number 8. Alright, so taking a meme that was popular across most teenagers and sadly some adults back in the mid-2000s, sort of understandable. Taking a meme only unironically used by 13-year-old 9gaggers in 2015 and slapping it onto a card just because the guy has a silly face is what I'd consider stepping into the trying too hard category. This guy's original Japanese name, Dokuta Furange, was actually a pretty clever cross between Dr. Frankenstein, the word strange, and the Japanese word furage, meaning getting something earlier than on time. I don't really understand why America couldn't call it Dr. Frange or something, but I guess when the exec tells you to appeal to the kids, you look up what's new, or in this case at least a decade old, on 9gag and slap it onto a card. But hey, apparently it's funny, because the guy has a leatherpy face, Abin. Finally, moving away from lemeimeis and to nonsensical translator incompetence, at number 7 we have Trap Dust Shoot. Alright, so see that thing Cliff is about to fall through? That's a dust chute. More specifically in this case, a garbage chute. Chutes are very common constructions in tall buildings that allow the rapid transport of items from the upper floors to a central location on one of the lower floors or basement. If you ever lived in a large city for any short period of time, you're bound to have noticed one on the inside or the outside of a building. Furthermore, this card's original name is literally the Romaji for dust chute. So I am really curious about which brain-dead high school level Japanese student they hire to translate dust chute into trap dust chute. What the hell is a trap dust chute anyway? A trap that shoots dust at people? Sounds like it would be a bit hard to fuel and maintain, let alone damage anyone. It doesn't even make sense in the context of the picture other than seeing Cliff falling into a trap. There's no dust, there's no shooting. Oh, and if you think I'm being harsh just because someone made one measly little grammar mistake that would never happen again, oh, you're in for a wild ride. Which brings me to our next subject at number 6, Giant Trunade. Long ago there was a dark time when a Japanese card would have an English name, Konami of America would have the English version have a Japanese name. That's how we got Raigeki, Ryukishin, Hitotsume Giant, etc, etc. Now Giant Trunade's original Japanese name was Hurricane, as in hurricane. Sadly, they refused to spare that perfectly sensible name from the clutches of imbecilic translation, and now we have tens of thousands of people around the world wondering what the hell a Trunade is supposed to be. Wanna know what's going on here? They actually wanted to put the romanization of the word tornado after the word great, but they were either so incompetent that they actually fucked up writing the word tornado, which is the actual romanization, or they just wanted the card to be named after some non-existent gibberish simply to sound cooler. So yeah, Trunade is not, in fact, an actual word. If they really wanted to go as far as to rename the card into Japanese, why not just use the word Tatsumaki, the actual word for tornado? Guess we shall never know. Next up is several monsters that share the spot due to the same theming in their names, that being tongue twisters, no, not that one. Ant-eater eating ant and interplanetary purply thorny dragon and beast are cards one would think would be number one due to making someone instantly think what the hell were they smoking when they made this? But they're only on the half of the list due to the fact that they're obvious jokes. This isn't translation, idiocy or bad grammar, instead it's a localization team having a bit of fun. Which doesn't make these names any less fucking stupid. Seriously, I'm all for changing things up a bit in the translation when you can make a decent pun or any kind of decent joke for that matter, but mashing silly sounding words together is what I'd consider elementary school grade anti-humor. And I completely understand the people that like these names because they make them laugh, but I personally think they're completely out of place here. Kinda makes you wonder how different some things would be if Konami of America's actions were completely supervised by the original Japanese creators. How would you feel if you drew a kick-ass space dragon and then some smug asshole with a keyboard goes, is a interplanetary purplitorny dragon, and then the exec goes, good one, Michael, publish it. I, for one, would be livid. Next up, yet another hilarious joke. At number 4 is Nefarious Archfiend Eater of Nefariousness. Holy redundancy, Batman! Apparently this was done as a reference to the very old card Archfiend Marmot of Nefariousness, whom this card shares appearance with. The problem here? None of these cards feature the word nefarious literally anywhere in their original Japanese names. Marmot's original name was Diamond Beaver, while Eater's original name was Diamond Eater. They literally added 3 goddamn words to this thing's name just to make a reference to the old one, which was understood by maybe like 10 people and where the word nefarious was put in literally out of nowhere. God forbid we get another retrain because the name would be so long it would be on 2 goddamn cards. And come on now, who the hell is even gonna call it that? Everyone I know that plays the card just calls it Eater. So yeah, again, it comes down to subjective preference, and my subjective preference is that this card's name is a redundant clusterfuck. Alright, now we're in the top 3 where jokes are not allowed and only the worst of the worst translation failures get in. Coming off from the previous parade of redundancy and onto the next one, we have the recently released Blackluster Soldier Super Soldier and his pal Blackluster Soldier Sacred Soldier. You know, before it was localized, this card went under the name Supreme Blackluster Soldier, and literally nobody had a problem with that or complained about it. And when the English name, which sounded like a bad 70s edgy superhero reboot, was revealed one day, you could feel a great disturbance on the forums. It's as if millions of jaws suddenly dropped in bewilderment, ever suddenly pushed back up on their faces. Fun fact, this card's original Japanese name is Chosenshi Kaosu Soruja, which in turn translates to Super Soldier Blackluster Soldier, which is precisely what we have here. See, the thing is that it works in Japanese because of the mixture of English and actual Japanese, so while the soldier part is redundant in the words, it's not in the pronunciation. While the English version for once could have benefited from a non-direct translation, they decided to go full fuckhead mode and keep it the way it is. At this point it would have made more sense to just name the guy Chosenshi Blackluster Soldier than this. But hey, at least we can take comfort in the fact that we can now call this guy Lackluster Soldier Scared Soldier. Oh, poor guy, I wish your archetype wasn't awful too. So, for the number 2 on our list, people are still debating if Konami wanted to pull a joke or if they had some really bizarre translation restrictions. Case in point, RedEyes B-Dragon, B-Skull Dragon, D-Human, Guilty at the D-Knight, and of course, just because why the fuck not, Lord of D. You know, I'd say the whole D deal is a really immature joke, but then you also have the B translations. For what purpose? Were they afraid somebody would get offended if the dragon was called RedEyes Black Dragon? As far as I recall, they had no problem calling it that in the anime. All of these are just really bizarre abbreviations that make no sense with the whole rest of the game. You have words black and dragon all over the place, so why these select few cards specifically? Why not just name this one RedEyes BD? Or fuck it, just call it Rabbit. Or maybe it is all just a stupid joke, in which case, let's go with it. Guilty as the Dick Knight, Dick Human, RedEyes B-Dragon is nuts across your face. Be Skull Dragon. Don't be afraid, just be a Skull Dragon. Lord of Dicks. As usual, before we head to number 1, let's cover some honorable mentions. Super Nimble Mega Hamster, which, and I quote, received its name by Jerome McHale repeatedly shouting Super Nimble Mega Hamster repeatedly until everyone agreed. The entire population of cards where death was changed to death because Americans are scared of the natural life cycle. And Pigeonholing Books of Spell for being a dumbass name that was thankfully later changed to Spellbook Organization. So here we are. I can finally talk about the 3 utterly embarrassing translation jobs Konami will never get over. Again, it's multiple cards, but they share the same theming in their names, and I call them the Unholy Trio. Fushio Richie, Buster Rancher, and Jerry Beansman. Let's talk first about Richie, who I mentioned in my top 10 worst summoning conditions video. His Japanese name is Nosferatu Richie, which any moron with half a brain would deduce to be Nosferatu Lich based on the name and the appearance. What does America do? Takes out the Nosferatu and replaces it with the Japanese word for immortal king, for some reason, and translates Richie into Richie. When I was a kid I got some weird looks when I asked people who knew English to translate this guy's name for me. Most I got out of it was that he was rich. Strike 1. Next up, Buster Rancher. Japanese name, Basutarancha. What's on the picture? A launcher. Absolutely no farms, cows or horses are present, therefore one would deduce that this is not, in fact, a rancher. Strike 2. And finally, Jerry fucking Beansman. I don't think I even need to point out the mistake here, however, kind Mr. Kevin Stewart gave us some cryptic hints that Jerry might not be a mistranslation and that he knows Jerry Beansman in real life, whatever that's supposed to mean. But it doesn't make translating Jelly Beansman into Jerry fucking Beansman any less obnoxiously stupid, even if you named him after some dude that works with you. Strike 3 Konami, you're out. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching the mistranslated Yu-Gi-Oh! 1 Rank 0 and do remember to subscribe.